What if I told you that there are children alive right now who can remember dying? I don't mean a near-death experience. I mean they remember a different life, a different body, and the exact moment it all came to a violent end. Think about this. A 2-year-old boy in Louisiana, who can barely form full sentences, starts screaming in his sleep, night after night, kicking his legs and shouting, "Airplane crash on fire." Little man can't get out. His terrified parents have no idea what's happening. They've never shown him war movies. They don't even have toy airplanes. But then the boy starts talking. He tells his dad that before he was their son, he was a pilot. He says his name was also James. He says his plane was a Corsair and that he flew it off a boat called the Natoma. The boy's father, completely baffled, decides to humor him. He finds a book on World War II, and as he flips through it, the little boy points to a picture of the island of Iwo Jima and says with chilling certainty, "That's where my plane was shot down." Driven by a desperate need for answers, the father starts digging. What he finds is so shocking it would change his life forever. The USS Natoma Bay was a real American aircraft carrier in the Pacific during World War II. As he digs deeper, his blood runs cold. He finds the official military records. There was, in fact, a pilot named James Houston Jr. who flew a Corsair off the Natoma Bay. A pilot who was killed in action during the Iwo Jima campaign when his plane was shot down, engulfed in flames, and crashed into the ocean. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is a real, documented case, one of the most famous in American history. And the little boy, James Leininger, is not alone. For the last 60 years, a handful of brave scientists and researchers have been quietly investigating thousands of children just like him, children born with memories that don't belong to them. Welcome back to Summary Thought, where today we are venturing into one of the most profound and challenging territories of human experience, the very real evidence for past life memories. We're not talking about faith or belief. We're talking about data, patterns, and documented facts that will make you question the very nature of who you are. Our guide on this incredible journey is a huge scientific paper that gathered all the major research in one place. It's called Academic Studies on Claimed Past Life Memories, a scoping review, and the lead author is Lucam J. Moraes. So, what did these scientists find when they looked at all the evidence together? Get ready, because we're about to go on an adventure that will stretch your mind to its limits. At first, we're going to travel the world to see where these incredible memories are surfacing. Then, we will meet the children themselves and uncover the chillingly consistent patterns in their stories, what they remember, how they remember it, and how it changes their lives. After that, we'll look at the most jaw-dropping evidence of all, the physical scars from another life that are literally printed on their bodies from the day they are born. And finally, we will put on our detective hats and follow the exact steps these researchers take to show whether these stories are just fantasy or tied to real people who actually lived and died. What's great is that the article explores the whole mystery, not just one side. It highlights the mind-blowing evidence that points towards reincarnation, but it also dives deep into the logical, skeptical arguments against it. It really shows the detective work researchers used to test these claims and separate fact from fantasy. This is a story about the ultimate mystery. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and open your mind, and I promise you, the answer will shock you. Part 1. The ghost story that's happening everywhere. So, if you had to guess, where would you say most of these stories come from? Your mind probably goes straight to places like India or Thailand, countries where reincarnation is a central part of the culture. And you'd be right. The review by Moraes confirms that the vast majority of cases, a whopping 58 out of the 78 studies they looked at, were from Asia. In a place where everyone grows up with the idea of past lives, it makes sense that when a child starts talking about one, the family is more likely to listen, to take it seriously, and to talk about it openly. But if you think that solves the mystery, if you think this is all just a product of culture and belief, you are in for a huge surprise. Because this isn't just an Asian phenomenon. It's not just a Buddhist or Hindu thing. It's a human thing. The researchers found studies from all over the world, including 10 major studies from North America and others from Europe. They're finding these children in the heart of Christian, Jewish, and atheist families. Families who thought the idea of reincarnation was complete nonsense before their child started having these memories. This is a critically important piece of the puzzle. It means we can't just write this off as cultural conditioning. You can't condition a toddler in Ohio, whose parents are Methodist, to suddenly start speaking with a different accent and demand to be taken back to their real family in another state. The fact that these cases are popping up independently in wildly different cultures and belief systems all around the globe tells us that something universal is going on. This is a real-life mystery that has all the elements of a classic ghost story, but with one crucial difference. It's actually happening. It's taking place everywhere, to different people, including people who don't believe in such things. Part 2. The tiniest witnesses to another life. At the very center of this mystery are the children. The study confirms that 84% of all these cases involve tiny kids, usually between the ages of 2 and 4. This is the magical time when language first blossoms, and it's at this exact moment that the memories of another life seem to pour out. And as scientists documented thousands of these cases, from the rice paddies of Sri Lanka to the suburbs of Virginia, they noticed the story was almost always the same. It begins with little statements, things a parent might brush off as make-believe. My other daddy was named Bob. I didn't live here, I lived by the water. But the child says it with a strange, adult-like seriousness. They aren't playing a game. And often, these memories are drenched in powerful emotion. The children might cry for a mother they miss or express deep anger about how their life was cut short. And that leads us to one of the darkest and most consistent patterns of all. In about 75% of the cases, the child remembers dying a violent, sudden, and traumatic death. They remember the shock and confusion of a car accident, the terror of drowning, the sharp pain of a bullet, or the chaos of a battlefield. The trauma is so immense that it seems to burn itself into their very soul and carry over into the new life. This isn't just a memory, it's an echo that shapes their new personality. The research found that over a third of these children have intense phobias that are directly and logically linked to how they remember dying. A child who recalls dying in a fire will be inexplicably terrified of matches. A child who remembers being shot will panic at the sound of a balloon popping. It's a wound that time has not healed. And then, just as mysteriously as the memories arrived, they begin to fade. Around the age of 7, 8, or 9, as the child gets more involved in school, friendships, and their current life, the past life seems to recede. It's like a dream you remember vividly when you first wake up, but by lunchtime, you can only recall a few fuzzy fragments. The window into that other world slowly closes, leaving behind only the documented facts and the lingering question, what in the world just happened? Part 3. The Ghost Detective's Toolkit. At this point, you're probably thinking, this is insane. How could anyone possibly prove any of this? And that skepticism is healthy. It's the same skepticism the researchers have. They are not here to believe. They are here to verify. And over decades, they have developed a rigorous, detective-like method for sorting fact from fiction. Their investigation begins with what you could call an interrogation. They conduct dozens of hours of interviews, all recorded. They talk to the child, carefully noting down every single statement they make about their past life, every name, every place, every event. Then, they interview the parents and family. They want to know, when did the child start talking about this? What were their exact words? And crucially, is there any way the child could have learned this information normally? Did they overhear a conversation? Watch a movie? Could the parents have even subconsciously coached them? The investigators have to rule out all the normal explanations first. Perhaps the most powerful skeptical argument is something called cryptomnesia, or hidden memory. A child's brain is a sponge. They might have overheard a conversation between adults, seen a quick scene from a TV show, or flipped past a picture in a book. They don't consciously remember learning the information, but it's stored deep in their subconscious. Later, when that information surfaces, it feels like it came from nowhere. It feels like a memory. This could explain how a child knows incredibly specific names and details. They didn't remember them from a past life. They simply don't remember learning them in this life. So, How do researchers decide between an incredible case of reincarnation and a simple case of cryptomnesia? The detective work gets serious. They hit the archives. This is where they hunt for what they call documental evidence. They become historians, digging through old public records looking for birth certificates, marriage licenses, and most importantly, death certificates and autopsy reports. They search for old newspaper articles about the death, police reports, and anything else that can confirm or deny the child's claims. If the stories alone aren't enough to make the hair on your arm stand up, then this next piece of evidence will. Because in the most powerful cases of all, the proof isn't just in what the child says. It's written on their skin. The Moraes review highlights that in nearly 40% of the studies, a key focus was on birthmarks and even birth defects that seemed to be the echoes of a past life. What truly lifts these stories out of the realm of fantasy and into the world of hard evidence is the stunning detail. They don't just say, "I was a farmer." They name the village they lived in. They give you the names of their wife and children. They describe the scar on their brother's left hand, the broken step on their front porch, or where they hid their money before they died. These are specific, concrete, verifiable facts that a child could never ever guess. Imagine this, a scenario based on dozens of real, documented cases. A boy is born in a small village in India. On the right side of his chest, he has a strange, puckered, starburst-shaped birthmark, almost like an old, healed-over wound. When he's old enough to talk, he says he used to be a man named Maharam who lived in the next village over. He says he was killed. He describes an argument over a plot of land and says a man shot him with a shotgun, right in the chest. The researchers, acting like detectives, go to the village the boy named. They find out that a man named Maharam did exist and was murdered exactly as the boy described. They then do something incredible. They track down the official autopsy report for the dead man. And the report shows that he was killed by a close-range shotgun blast to the right side of his chest. The pattern of the bullet wounds recorded in the autopsy photo perfectly matches the shape and location of the little boy's birthmark. Let that sink in for a moment. This is not a one-off story. There are hundreds of documented cases just like this. Children born with a cluster of small, round birthmarks on their back who remember being a soldier who was killed by machine gun fire. Children born with a thin, pale line of a birthmark across their throat who remember being a man whose throat was slit. There are even cases of children born with gnarled, malformed fingers who remember being a person whose fingers were cut off in an accident. The correspondence is often so precise it's medically undeniable. It's a direct hit. This is the evidence that shatters our understanding of reality. It bridges the gap between mind and matter. How can a memory of a fatal wound, a wound on a body that has long since turned to dust, seemingly create a blueprint that impresses itself upon a new body in a new life? It is the most profound and baffling part of this entire phenomenon, and it's a question that science has no answer for. Part 4. The story isn't over. So, after traveling the globe, listening to the children, examining their scars, and following the detectives, we come back to the biggest question of all. What does it mean? This scientific paper, by its very nature, doesn't give us the final answer. It simply lays out the facts. It holds up a mirror to a phenomenon that is happening right now all around us. And the reflection we see in that mirror is one that completely challenges the simple idea that we are just our bodies and that our consciousness just blinks out like a candle flame when we die. The evidence points towards something far more spectacular and mysterious. It suggests that our consciousness, our memories, our personality, our talents, even our traumas, is not disposable. It's not a one-time thing. It suggests that it might be more like a current of energy that can flow from one physical form to another. It hints that this life we're living right now might not be our first, and that death might not be a final goodbye, but simply a doorway to somewhere else. This isn't about religion. You don't have to believe in anything to be stunned by the evidence. This is about being open to the possibility that reality is infinitely more complex and magical than we can imagine. It suggests that you, the person listening to this right now, might be a story that is far older and longer than you ever knew. What do you believe? Are these cases the smoking gun for reincarnation, Or is there an even stranger explanation waiting to be discovered? Let's start a conversation about it in the comments, because this is a mystery that is worth exploring together. The journey for answers is the reason we're all here at Summary Thought. If this story has expanded your reality and you want to keep diving into the deepest questions we can ask, show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing for our next adventure, and sharing this video with someone who is ready to have their mind blown. Thank you for listening. And until next time, keep wondering.